Hello, this is Merrill Hutchinson and
Kyle Crofford.
All right, Kyle, we are coming to you for our very first show, our first podcast of Strong Dads. We're looking forward to getting things rolling today. Our show is going to be about dads and husbands, and so there's so much that we really want to cover in here. And we're going to get into this first show. Hopefully, this is a show for dads, but hopefully for moms too, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We definitely want the moms to listen in and kind of help encourage us get better. That's kind of definitely the premise of this whole podcast is talking with dads, trying to get better at who we are as men, and hopefully, ultimately, just really make God smile in what we're doing.
Yeah, and so, why are we doing this show, I guess, is kind of maybe, Kyle, what we ought to explain a little bit about. I came from a school background, and the last 20 years as an actual school counselor, and one of the things that I saw in my work was just the deterioration of the family, and year after year I saw this progression of dads kind of leaving the scene,
Right.
More moms raising their children. And, early on, that was not making me happy, but I was like, oh, well, another divorce or what have you. And then I started to study more and more of the actual fallout, what was happening with the kids, behavior issues, academic issues. And it really just started to sink in with me like, wow. This is a big, big deal when our dads aren't there. Right. And so in my last 10 years, my mission has been not just to work with moms and kids, but to pull dads in and say, hey, we need you. We need you. Your kids need you. More than that, our community needs you. And if you look, the statistics are overwhelming, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. The statistics are overwhelming about what happens to families when dads aren't there. And so we're pretty set on the idea. I know both you and I, and you can share a little bit about your experiences too, but we're set on the idea that dads are essential.
Sure.
To making strong families. So, Kyle, give a little bit of just your work background in terms of how it got you motivated to talk about dads.
Right. So I'm a firefighter. I've been in the fire service for about 11 years now. I currently work for the city of Dayton, and through all that, through my whole experience in the fire service, I get the opportunity daily to go into homes, broken homes, and make EMS runs and get to really see big picture what the whole point of this, that you see the deterioration of the homes and the fact that a lot of times it's because the dad is not there, and you get to see we'll make runs on kids, and a lot of times it has to do with a father figure that wasn't there, that didn't show them right and wrong, and you can't do things like this. And ultimately you just see the breakdown of the home, and where I work is a rougher area. I work on the west side of Dayton, and we see just, my goodness, some of the homes that we go into where there is not a stability factor. There is no foundation for what we're going to do today, what we're going to do tomorrow. And it just kind of brought us, brought me to this point where I just want to do something for it. Want to kind of figure that out, work with dads. It's being in the fire service, I get an opportunity to talk and be around a lot of people, and you make.
So here's what caught me, and what I think I'm hearing from you. It's not that you go into an emergency situation when you've got a call and you go, wow, there's an emergency situation and I've never seen this before. This is kind of weird. You go in now and you're like, oh, it's the same pattern.
Absolutely.
It's the same pattern. That's what I saw in the schools. And I'm sure that's kind of what you're referring to, that I'm in the same neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm in the same house, right? But I'm in the
right.
same neighborhoods, and I'm seeing the same kind of issues. And so we always have to look at, well, what's the common thread? If there is a common thread, what's the common thread? And if there is a common thread, then is there something we can do with that instead of dealing with the symptoms? Sure. Maybe start dealing with the actual problem.
Right.
And so I certainly saw that in the school. you're seeing that actually in the community.
Right.
And I'm sure you've been on some calls that are dangerous, domestic issues and stuff like that. Yeah.
And you know, in kind of preparing for this, one of the runs that I've brought up before with you, Merrill, is, you know, we made a run for a gentleman, you know, not much younger than I am, and try to run away from what he was what he had going on. Try to run away from the responsibilities of having to deal with the police. And for a brief minute, I got to kind of step in there and just talk to him as a man, and just let him know that if he runs away from the responsibilities that he's trying to get away from, that ultimately it's not going to end well for him.
Yeah.
And it's just that idea that if he actually had a dad, it was very evident that he did not have a dad. The dad was not present. That if he had a dad that talked to him and taught him right and wrong and taught him the responsibility of owning things, and when you mess up, it's okay. But when you run away from it and make that situation that much worse, my goodness.
Yeah, and then we run from our problems, and it becomes our habit. And the next thing you know, when I was working with a couple the other day, and I was talking to them about the generational view that we as a community and as fathers, we have to start to understand. And generationally, meaning, the decision I make today might help just today, in terms of giving me an easier way out. But what will it do tomorrow, in a week, in a month, in a year, and 20 years down the road? And so actually the dad I was working with in this particular case is now, he is a third and producing fourth generation of, we're just trying to figure out this dad thing on the fly. And it's not pretty. And he is recognizing it, and what is so cool is he's going, I am changing this. I'm changing this. So the generational effect is huge. And just as you're talking about, you got young men who are making decisions on what would feel good or be good, like right in the second, you know, when the police are chasing me, you know, and that's not a good time to be making decisions.
Nope.
Yeah. Well, hey, we better tell our listeners a little bit about what we are about. So, Kyle, give me a little bit about what your dad experience is, because I don't want to listen to some young punk who doesn't know anything about being a dad. So tell me what you got. Tell me what you got.
So I have two young girls, 6 and 4, Ava and Mia, and I've been married for... I guess I should probably know this right now, shouldn't I?
You better, because I think someone's going to listen to this.
I got married in 2010, so that would be be coming on 9 years this August, and we have, like I said, 2 girls, and it's fun being a dad. I love waking up every day because I'm a firefighter, and I get the opportunity to have a lot of time off, so I get to spend a lot of time with my girls. Get to try and figure out how to be a dad of 2 girls.
That's another topic. We'll hit that show later.
That is, yes. But yeah, so just a dad of 2 girls, and just trying to figure it out every day, trying to figure out how to be a dad.
Yeah. So tell me, how about your dad?
Sure.
What kind of history do you have with your dad? What experiences do you have there?
Yeah. So my dad is a strong dad, very loving, very caring. Worked in the Ford Motor Company plant for 39 years, and through all that, I picked up on and learned from his consistency every day, getting up, getting your butt to work, and making sure you show up. And that was big for my dad, just showing up, even if what wasn't your best day, just showing up, and that consistency. And through that, my parents are still married, and because of that, there's a lot of benefits that go into that for my whole family. So I have a younger brother and older sister, and we get to see what a consistent marriage looks like. You know, my parents have been married for 36 plus years.
Yeah.
And, get to see what that looks like, the consistency.
Great witness to you guys.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Well, so that's good stuff. So a little bit about me. So I'm the old man here. I'm 56. How old are you?
I'm 30.
Oh,
I'm 30 years
Lord.
old.
I actually have sons that are your age. So anyway, I'm 56. I have 5 kids, 2 biological sons, and they serve in the military. Really good guys. Absolutely, just admire who they are, what they are, and we're just super proud of their work. And then my wife Linda and I, who have been married 32 years. So that's longer than you've even been alive.
This is true.
And so we have adopted 3 younger kids. And so actually when I was in the school world, and I'm retired out of the school right now, but when I was in the school world, I had 3 siblings that were kind of under my watch. And they came from a challenging situation. And I tried to look the other way numerous times, like, oh my gosh, this is not good. And, finally, I felt like God was calling us to say, hey, put up or shut up, big boy. It's time to do something here. And so my wife and I began to talk and made what I will say is we're really one of the most challenging decisions that we ever made. And that was to open our home to these kids. And so they've been in our home now for 3.5 years. They're good kids. Lots of challenges, especially early on, and made me see how bad of a dad I am, actually. And so we talk about that, like, oh, you thought you were all that, and all of a sudden you find out, yeah, we fall short in a lot of different areas. And so I think, Kyle, one of the things that you and I have talked about before is this is a show for dads and for husbands. But this is not about being perfect dads, right?
Right.
I mean, we're going to get muddy and dirty and say stuff we shouldn't say and just be gruff or whatever. And the purpose in this is not to be perfect dads. It's to be strong dads.
Sure.
It's to say, hey, stay in the fight. Let's not run away. Let's stay with the responsibility. We are Christian men. And because we are Christian men, that just means we're men full of mistakes that claim to have a Savior that is somebody that leads us and guides us. And so nothing more special in terms of what we are biologically, but something special in the sense that we have a constitution that we can pull from.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I mean, just kind of echoing off what you were saying. I mean, this is not a sprint. This is a marathon for us, and we're in this for the long haul. Just like we're talking about with generation, just building long term here. That's kind of the point of this. Yeah.
So generationally, let's start moving through this and see what we can do to help more dads. I actually come from the counseling background, but also currently my wife and I have a ministry called Rock Solid Families, and we do marriage and family coaching. I also do some fitness and personal training coaching out of that. So we kind of roll all of that together. My wife and I also do another radio show called Rock Solid Radio. And so if you are interested, that is more for dealing with the issues of faith, family, and fitness. So my wife and I banter back and forth on various topics, and so we enjoy doing that. And so you can pick up those podcasts on iTunes and Spotify and things like that. But for us men, this is a show that we want our primary focus to be talking about dads. Mm-hmm. So that's where we come from, and we want to be God-based. And no apologies for that. And so we do pray that it hits home with you. And if you have questions or whatever, feel free to contact us. You can actually contact me at hutch@rocksolidfamilies.org. And so if you have an email or a question or anything, you can send it out to us and we will get it through that. All right, so we better get to a little bit of what we want to talk about a little bit today. Let's run through some of the wow stats.
Yep.
These are stats that when I started to discover these things, I went, it's not our president, it's not our government, it's not the police that need to start doing a better job. Sure, we all need to do a better job. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the one stat in this country that is blowing this country apart, it's not government related as much as it's home related.
Right.
And the stats are just crazy. Listen to these for a second. First off, this is from 2017 U.S. Census Bureau. And at that time, there were 19.7 children.
19.7 million.
19.7 million children. And more than 1 in 4 are living without a dad. More than 1 in 4. Okay, so 25% or higher have no dad. And so the evidence starts to pan out with some major stats. Kyle, you want to take a look at a couple of those stats? What do you see there?
So, yes, I mean, just like you were saying, so it's 4 times greater risk of being in poverty, which is crazy. My goodness. I mean, that's
4 times greater.
Yeah, absolutely. That's insane. And kind of just back up just a little bit, I know in preparing for all this, we talked about, as much as we both like the politics, not making this show a political talk show. That's not our goal. But yeah, so 4 times greater risk of being in poverty, which is insane. And you can probably touch on this more than I can. The more likely to have behavioral problems.
Yeah, this is one of the areas that I actually started to focus on early in my counseling career. The behavior problems. I would see kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and especially boys, not always boys, but especially boys, come through. And, boys can just they have that little wild spirit in them or what have you. And we'd have behavior issues. And time and time and time again, if I had a tough boy and I had a father involved, by the time we got into second and third grade, we were really starting to see things starting to flatten out and to get better and to see improvement. And that doesn't mean the kid was all of a sudden turned into an angel, but it meant that I had strength. I had strength there. If I didn't have the dad, it was all bets were off. And I mean, that was tough because I'd be dealing strictly with a mom who was emotionally just challenged, and they were fighting like crazy to try to help. But if I had a dad in the picture, man, the success rate that I personally experienced was so much greater. And I could share personal stories, but I don't want to use the names. But man, I actually wrote a graduation card a couple months ago to a family, and in particular the dad, that this particular kid, he was a wild Mustang, and his dad was a strong dad. And I said, hey, without you, I'm not sure where this guy would be right now. Yeah, and so it was a testimony to the whole value of dads.
Right.
How about the likelihood for our girls to become pregnant? Yeah. 7 times more likely for teenage girls to become pregnant if there's not a dad in the home.
Which is huge. I mean, I'm raising 2 girls and you're raising 1. I mean, that's big. That just solidifies that idea that the dad needs to be in the home. You need, and not necessarily just a dad in the home, you need a strong dad, a dad who actually is putting forth effort and actually caring and loving on the girls. Man, that's big. 7 times more likely. Yeah,
that's crazy. How about just simple things like they're more likely to have abuse and neglect situations in their own life? This one here hit home with me. They have a greater likelihood for alcohol and drug abuse, which we see that again. Again, you see this in your work. The opioid addictions issues, and not to say that if we have mom and dad in the home that your kids are free and clear from this, but we see a greater likelihood of addiction issues if we don't have a dad in the home.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
2 times more likely to be a high school dropout. We see that all the time. We see if kids can't make it through high school and you go back and you look at their home life, okay, where's dad? Yep. Where's dad? The prison count. I actually do a little bit of work in our jails. 92% of the men in jail, in prison, 92% are fathers. Wow. And they're not there.
Wow.
They're not in the home. The ill effects of that are huge. So anyway, these are not stats that we have to really work to try to prove, I don't believe. But what we do have to do is say, what are we going to do about it? Yep. We can sit around as a country and just sit there and act like we're victims. But I think you and I feel like it's time to slam the brakes and not go old-fashioned. That's not what this is about. It's time to go and get our Constitution back of what we are as a man.
Yep. For
Okay.
sure.
So, where do we start, Kyle? What are some of your thoughts? Where do you start? What do you do? What has kind of brought you to the center line of saying, okay, here's where I need to start to be a good, strong dad?
Right. So there's a verse that I always go back to, and it's a constant reminder, and it's 2 Corinthians 5:17, and it says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old is gone and the new has come." And I always go back to that because it's for me knowing that I'm not a new creation because of anything that I do, that I'm a new creation because of what God has done for me and in me. And through all that, just the idea to humble yourself at the foot of the cross, like, my goodness, something so big and so powerful as the cross and what it represents for us as believers, what it represents, and just that idea that it is so much bigger than who I am. And especially as men, we like to kind of puff our chest out a little bit and say, I can do this on my own. But just going back to that idea that we can't. My goodness, I mean, we're broken, and we need something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah. You know, one of the cool things about being an 18-year-old male is your testosterone's high. You're lifting weights more than you've ever lifted before, and you've got the man body, and so you think you're all that.
Sure.
Right? And all of a sudden, you start to live like you're all that. and again, there's value in that, right? You're testing yourself in a lot of different ways, whether it's at your workplace or on the football field or whatever it is. You're testing yourself, and I think we do need to test ourselves. We kind of need to see what our fabric is made of. But all of a sudden, when you're 28 years old, and then you're 38 years old, you start to see that some of your fabric's got some holes in it, right? You start to see, wow, I've struggled in some areas. And one of the biggest factors that we see is we have raised up generations now, at least 2 to 3 generations of, you can do this, you got this, you're a leader, you're the man. And we have focused it all inwardly on what we can do. And all of a sudden, you won't find an arrogant old man. You don't, because
there's a lot of truth to that.
No, because old men have had their ass kicked, right? And again, they go, wow, I don't have this. Whether they were beat by cancer, whether they were beat by divorce, whatever, and they reach out. And so one of the very first things that we really want to talk about is we need to settle our pride and our arrogance. And I like what you said. You got to humble yourself at the foot of the cross. You're gonna worship something, right? Whether it's going to be your new car out in the driveway or your boat on the lake, but where's that going to get you? And so
and that's hard to do.
Absolutely,
That's hard to do, to humble yourself to anything.
Yeah,
let alone something as big as the cross. Holy smokes!
Yeah, and especially if you don't get the cross,
right?
Like you don't quite get what's this whole Christian thing, and so we definitely talk about, hey, if you don't know what that's about. Either contact somebody, go to a church, start to reach out, because man, the message is just, it never dies. And I just find it, the more I study, the more I go, this is just awesome stuff. And the one thing I love about learning about Christ, everybody thinks that he was some kind of passive, like a pacifist, like, oh, he's gentle. He was a butt-kicking maniac.
Oh, my goodness. Absolutely. Absolutely. Jesus was no joke. I mean, he knew what he had behind, with him, inside him. I mean, golly, if you weren't scared of Jesus, man.
Yeah. Whew. Yeah. And I mean, because he would call you out. It didn't matter. It didn't matter your money, your strength, your fame. It didn't matter. He'd go toe-to-toe with you. And only because he had such confidence in his God. Oh, yeah, right?
Absolutely.
And so he did not have confidence in himself. He knew where himself came from, right?
Yep.
So anyway, how about what's the next step we want to encourage our dads to do?
So we definitely want to encourage our dads to hold each other accountable, which is part of the premise of this show. We want to be talking with dads, not at dads. And the idea that Merle and I are broken, we are flawed, but But
well, you a little bit more than me.
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
right?
I thought we were just talking about. I thought we were talking about old guys.
Oh wait, I was just talking about pride.
Oh, okay.
And never mind. I'm sorry. I take all that back.
But yeah, the idea to hold each other accountable, and to not get frustrated or pissed off when another man, a strong dad, a strong man, is calling you out for your flaws, knowing that they have flaws too. But because of who our Savior is, we can come at it at an appropriate way. Like we're going at it knowing that if I call you out, it's because I want to make you better as a man, not because I think I am the best man. Yeah,
man, that's tough. And it's one thing to be called out by your wife or even your boss, but man, it's another thing to be called out by a brother of yours who says, dude, you hanging out at the bar 5 nights a week is you're doing the wrong thing. Yep. And our nature is to throw our fist up, to become defensive. And that's our nature. But the humbleness says, hey, wait, I've got something to learn here. So you're right. That accountability is huge. Yep. Something that I have been stressing so much in my home is you got to own it. You got to own the problem.
This is big.
I don't care whether we're male or female. We're in a world right now in this country where if something goes wrong, the first thing that happens is our finger goes out, right? We've got to point the finger to somebody. It's either, the doctor screwed up, the business messed up, my wife didn't get it, somebody else screwed up. And that is the most self-defeating behavior that you can do because it totally takes the power of change away from you. It means that for me to change, I have to wait for something else, somebody outside of me to make the change. The referee's got to do a better job for me to win the ball game.
Yep.
Right? And so in our home, I treat blames and excuse making and arguing and bickering, I treat it like they're cussing for our kids. Because when they go up with a blame, I'm like, back off right now. Back off right now and own it. Own your part. Yeah. Maybe you don't have all of this, but you got to own your part of it. And so I want to emphasize that with our dads. Hey, you know what? You're not perfect. Get over yourself already. And let's own what you do need to own.
Right. And I think on your guys' radio show, I think it was Linda that made the comment that even if 5% of it is on you to take that 5% and be like, yes, you're right. It takes two to tango, right? Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, well, I've heard it before, yeah.
So in everything, there's two sides to every story, and sometimes it's good to take a step back and look at the other person's perspective and realize that I do have faults, and I'm going to own those faults.
Yeah, and so once I own it, so then dads, we say, hey, then start to be part of the solution. And so what are you, I always talk about when I'm teaching kids, ask yourself this simple question. So what can I do? That's why we're doing this podcast.
Sure, absolutely.
Because we saw a problem and we said, this is just crazy. And we can walk around and just moan about it for years about where we are and what we are seeing in our communities. And again, we know that this is not going to be the one thing that changes the entire world, but it gives us an opportunity to say, let's slam the brakes on and let's try to go into solution mode and do something that we think God has inspired us to do. So ask yourself the question, what can I do? And it's amazing where your brain will start to take it.
Right.
All right. And then act on it.
Yeah. And a big thing with that, especially in today's society with social media being what it is, the idea of not making excuses and not blaming other people.
Yeah.
And I mean, social media is good in a lot of regards, but it's also pretty bad.
Oh, it's dangerous. Yeah.
And just the idea you can get on there and you can just rant and rave about whatever you want and really not be held accountable, which kind of goes back to one of our first points.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is real important for us guys to pay attention to, and when I'm coaching male, female, it doesn't matter. I make a point to say this, that if you are upset with something, and like maybe you get upset at your wife, all right? Maybe you had a little tiff about something, and you go to work, and you start belly aching about, man, she did this and she did that, and your coworker says, man, you know what? I wouldn't put up with that garbage. I can't believe you even listened to that. You need to walk away from that man. you need to find a new friend.
Yep.
Instead, you need to go over and find a man that says, well, what did you do? Mm-hmm. Because if you're hanging around because it feels good, like he's affirming you, like, oh, yeah, your wife, yeah, she is a real piece of work. and if the message is being affirmed by him, he's not a friend. Right. And so it is your job as a man to say, who am I hanging around? Mm-hmm. I need to hang around men that challenge me to be better rather than guys who make me feel good. Right? So,
which kind of leads us to our next thing. We want our listeners to kind of walk away. I mean, in this whole podcast, we want to make sure that everything we're doing, yes, big picture, we're doing it for ultimately for the kingdom, but we want to make sure we're honoring our wives, our mothers, and our children.
Yeah. Huge.
Oh,
right.
And it's hard because just like you were saying, I mean, there's going to be struggles in our marriage. There's going to be struggles with our kids, and you're going to want to vent and talk to people about it. But you need to make sure, just like you were saying, Merle, make sure we're talking to the right people, other strong men, because ultimately by bashing our wives and bashing our kids, it's not honoring them at all.
Yeah. We've come into this world of almost moms and dads. It's almost us versus them. Mm-hmm. And I always talk about this with I always use the metaphor of shoes. Yes, if I buy 2 left shoes, my feet will be somewhat protected, right? I mean, they're in a little enclosed case, right? So I could buy 2 left shoes, and I could have somewhat protected feet. But the functionality of my body would drastically suffer because 2 left shoes are not going to allow my body to move and function like they're designed to do. And so I look at mom and dad as not us against them. It's like a pair of shoes, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and so I need mom just like she needs me. Mm-hmm. And our kids need the pair. Right. And so I don't like to talk about raising kids in terms of, well, this is a mom job or this is a dad job. No, this is a parent job. And so this is the pair coming together. Yep. So we want to do everything we can to honor our wives and to just hold them up and to appreciate what they do.
Right.
So, wow, we are going through so many different things. Anyway, the bottom line is this, is we want to be positive, we want to have fun, and we want to make things better. And so this is a generational thing that we talked about a little bit earlier, that whole idea that if you want to look out and see where the problems are in this country, look back 30, 40, 50 years in terms of what's happened to our dads and look to see where that starts to play out into the future. And so part of our goal with Strong Dads is to make a generational impact.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if you're currently in a situation where it's not good or you're absent from your home, part of what we want to do is be a part of getting better and building in that generation cycle that we are building, not for today, not for tomorrow, not for a year down. Just like you were saying, that generational, we're building for. I know the reason I'm investing in my girls right now is because in 20, 30, 40 years from now, I want to see other Croffords out there that are loving Jesus, that are trying to be productive people in society, that are trying to be, Lord willing, my girls get married to a godly man. Like I want to see what that looks like. That's why I do what I'm doing.
Yeah, and that's good stuff because it's not a guarantee, but it definitely is a strong insurance. One of the things we can't stop is the world is still going to be around us, and there's going to be other influences. Yep. But how much are you going to let the world influence your family? Mm. So. Something for us to evaluate. And so one of the things we do is we want to challenge men, and as well as we challenge ourselves. And one of the things we challenge our men to do right now, if you're listening to this, I challenge you that when you're done listening, you do a checkup on your current status at home. What kind of man are you? What kind of father are you in your home? What do you look like in your workplace? How about your church? How about the community? Are you a man who is leading your home, or are you a whatever man? Whatever, I'm going with the flow. That's one of our favorite phrases as men, isn't it? Whatever, whatever. And it's because we really don't like conflict. We really don't, especially in our home. And so we go with the flow. But what my challenge would be to you is there is a time to go with the flow. Whether you're going to eat at McDonald's or Wendy's, who really gives a rat's butt, right? But whether we're going to follow certain principles, right. Whether we're going to have a faith. That's not a whatever. Yeah. That's not a whatever, all right? So evaluate yourself. Here's a tough one. Ask your wife how you're doing.
I bet she would know.
I think my wife, lovely Linda, would have an answer, right? And again, we've worked in this for a long time, and so we're very honest about it, and we try to, in a very respectful way, support each other and to call each other out on where we need help out of each other. And so, ask your wife, what do you see me doing that I do well in the home? What do you see me doing that you wish I would do a little bit better? And wives, if you're listening to this, don't attack. All right, don't attack. Instead, come around and say, this is something I've always wanted you to do or to be more of. This is where I wish I saw more of your strength. Right. God gave men the gift of strength, both physical and through a lot of our thinking. That doesn't mean women can't be strong by any means at all. I mean, my wife is one strong lady. But the idea that we can keep emotions in check a little bit better and we can keep to a logical thinking is just more in the male brain wiring. And of course, just the physical strength. If at the end of the day, if someone breaks in my home, I sure hope it's not my wife that has to run up there and start to scream at him to death. Hopefully I'm ready to step up and throw rocks or fist or whatever we need to do, right?
Right. Yeah, just and being honest. Make sure you know that when you ask your wife that question, that you should expect her to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I've said this before. My goodness, this whole idea of toxic masculinity really frustrates me because God made us to be men. And so step up and be strong in that there's nothing wrong with being a man's man. Again, just like we were saying before, Jesus was that. Jesus was not afraid to hurt feelings. He had a way of doing it though. And, he went about it the right way. But yeah, ultimately just make sure you know that when your wife tells you something, that it should be coming from the right place.
Yeah, good stuff. So hey, if you like what you heard today from Kyle and I, we have lots of shows planned and that we will be starting to put up on the air. And so we're going to be talking about how do I create a foundation in the home? What's it look like to be a protector of our home? What's it like to be a teacher? I come from the teaching background. What's it like to be a teacher within your home? What's our responsibility in provision and providing for our home?
Right.
How about this one? Disciplinarians.
That'll be a fun one. That'll be
I'll have to share some of my dad's stories with that. and again, we're talking about being a spiritual leader. We have a lot of men who have stepped outside. And this is, we say we step outside of the church, but we first have to know why we would go to a church and then pull our strength from that. And so those are some topics that we have coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So we hope that you enjoyed the first airing of Strong Dads, and we are certainly looking forward to many more shows to come. So Kyle, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
And
thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, if you have any questions or would like to contact us, you can get us at hutch@rocksolidfamilies.org. Thanks a lot for listening.